Gordon Hendricks. Wow. Hello. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to ask you a very simple question. What's your name? And tell us where you're from. And what do you do?
I've done this before, I think.
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah.
My name's Gordon Hendricks. I'm from Stoke-on-Trent. I've been in ETA, well, as far back as I can remember, really, from probably about 4 or 5 years old. I grew up with Elvis, you know, and music-wise, I grew up with 11 sisters in my family, and I was the only guy, so they were big Elvis fans, as you can imagine. And so every morning it was just Elvis, 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 you know, on the radio and records, everything was just Elvis all over the place. So it kind of was driven into me without no choice at the first, but then I got to really enjoy it, you know. That's how it started for me.
I was going to say, you can tell that you've been doing this for a while because you went ETA. I'm kind of going ETA, estimated time of arrival, and then you mentioned Elvis, and I went, oh yeah, Elvis Tribute Act, and so obviously it's something that you've always grown up with. So how long have you been doing the Elvis Tribute Act for? Because it's been quite a while now, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, I started about 20 years ago now, and I've been doing it, you know. I started at the pubs and the clubs, really. That's how it started for me. It started right at the bottom, you know, doing a little pub circuit and stuff. And I had a lot of barbershop because I'm a barber as well, see. So I'm like the Elvis barber. I was known for that at the beginning. And I used to have a little shop in Longton where I used to live. And all the customers used to come in and come past, and I just used to play Elvis records all the time. And they used to bring in memorabilia for me, you know, so I'd put it on the walls. And then people started noticing that the shop started turning into like an Elvis Barbers. So some BBC came down and they did a little interview with me on TV. And then a friend of mine said, you know, you should apply for Stars in Their Eyes, you know, the old TV program with Tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be, you know, it was one of them. Yeah. And so that's how it started. I applied for that. And I went down to Granada Studios and got through all the auditions. And then, you know, I won the grand final of Stars in Their Eyes, which was pretty incredible at the time. 2005, that was, I think. And then in the audience, there was a guy called Jeff Morrow who wrote songs for Elvis, wrote some hits for Elvis too, you know, Sweet Angeline. And I thought, wow, this is great, you know. So he invited me down to London, and I started recording an album that Elvis never got to record. And I released a single, Where Would I Be, that Elvis was supposed to record, which was, you know, like a dream come true. And I thought, well, that's it, I've made it, you know, I've won Stars in Their Eyes, I've made it. And well, that was just the start, you know, and then the doors really started opening for me, you know, and then I started going into competitions. And I thought, well, maybe there's something in this, you know. So I started going to competitions, and then every competition I was going in, I was winning. And I thought, well, okay, so what's happening now, you know? And so I did Birmingham, Hilton, and I won the Hilton Hotel down there, and it was European Championship in 2011. And then after that, I went on to across the seas, and I thought, okay, I'll try Canada. So I put my foot into Canada, and then I won in Canada. And then I went to the biggest competition, Collingwood in Canada, and won that too. So I was like, okay, now we're onto something.
Actually, there's a couple of things. I mean, there's quite a lot of information that you said. Firstly, what I want to know was, you know, when you were in your barber shop, did you ever cut anyone's hair singing an Elvis song?
Everybody asked that. No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
You did. Damn!
I've got to be honest with you. What actually happened was, people would come in with memorabilia, like I said, and they would give me the stuff, and I'd cut them. But I was pretty shy at the time. I was pretty within myself, you know. I didn't dare perform. I'd never been like outspoken, or I'm a pretty shy person, and I thought, okay, you know, I don't want to do that. And then I was kind of forced into it, you know, by friends. And they said, you should do it because you sound so much like Elvis, you know, you should do it. Yeah. So that's how it started. And so, no, I wasn't singing to the customers, but I do now.
Yeah, do you still cut hair then as well? Do you still cut people's hair, give them a haircut?
Well, what happened was, I've got a barbershop called Hendricks Barbershop, and it's all like a rock and roll theme in there. So we've got gold discs up, Elvis movies are playing all the time, 24/7. And I've got staff who work for me. And then since the lockdown, I've started showing my face back in there now. So I go and do like 1 day a week. And, you know, it's been really, really good for me to get back in and just kind of have some kind of normality back to my life. And it's really helped me get through this, you know.
I love the fact that you can go into the hairdressers and you'll go, right, do you want the junior stylist who'll cost you 20 quid? Do you want the senior stylist who'll cost you 50 quid? Or you can have it with Elvis, which will cost you £1,000. I'm making the prices up there.
I wish I could do that.
For you, I mean, obviously, I mean, just looking at you, you can tell that, you know, you've got certain elements of Elvis, like with the chisel chin and what have you. Was there always that thing where people looked at you and kind of said, you could play the role of Elvis? Was there that thing, or was that something that you kind of discovered?
Not really. I mean, I didn't really look at myself as Elvis. I still don't, actually. I mean, for me, it's about the sound, you know, of Elvis. And when I first started out, I always used to say to myself, I'll never put a jumpsuit on, ever. You know, it was one of them. Because my perception of that was kind of, you know, old guys in jumpsuits, and, you know, I just didn't like it, you know, and I thought, no, I can't do it. So I went out as like a vocal tribute. And the reason why is because I worked with the Sweet Inspirations, the original backup singers for Elvis. And when they heard me sing, they said, damn, you know, you sound so much like Elvis. It's incredible. And I was like, okay, I'll take that. And then I thought, well, I'll just do that. You know, I'll go down that road. What changed it for me was when I did Stars in Their Eyes, they dressed me up like Elvis. I never used to do that before. So I was like, okay, what's happening now, you know? And then it was a new aspect for me. You know, people were saying, well, this is what you should do now. You should dress up as Elvis, you should go on stage as Elvis, you sound like him, dress up like him. And that then became the act, you know, from that, really.
And would you say, did you go to the extent of copying everything, his mannerisms? Obviously, I know everyone must say to you, can you please say thank you very much, or you know, little phrases that he always used to kind of say. But did you kind of go deeper into it and kind of watch, you know, his whole movement, the way he spoke to people, almost reenacting it, you know, method acting, whereby you're going, you know what, today I'm not going to tell anyone, I'm not going to dress like Elvis, but I'm going to pretend I'm Elvis, just the way I walk into a shop. I'm going to go into a bakery shop and I'll order a sausage roll in the style of Elvis, or anything. Did you go down that route?
No, I think what it was for me, way back, you know, when I was a kid, it was a natural progression for me. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to sit and watch Elvis movies all the time. I used to watch everything about them. I was like obsessed at one point, you know, when I was like 14, 15, I had pictures all over the walls, and that's all I used to listen to. So by the time I got to my later career, where I was singing and performing on stage, I didn't really think about it. It was just happening, you know, and I thought, okay, maybe that's because I've absorbed it for so many years. It was a kind of natural progression for me to act like that on stage. It was just, I was reenacting what I'd seen in my own mind. So it was a very natural process. So I didn't go on stage, and a lot of people have said that to me, you know, people who have judged me in competitions have said, you're the most natural artist we've ever seen. It's very natural flow for you on stage. When I was in Memphis and I got to the World Championship, the judges there, the Holiday Sisters, who worked with Elvis and recorded with Elvis in Memphis, they said to me, you're the most natural, moving, singing Elvis we've ever seen. You know, it was like it was just effortless to you. There was nothing putting on. And I think that's what it was. I think when you start something so young and it's driven into you, it is a natural progression in your life.
I'm going to ask you that real simple question. I'm expecting you to say yes. Have you been to Graceland?
Yes.
I was waiting for you to say no. I've never been.
Lots and lots of time. I won the World Championship in Memphis, and opposite Graceland Mansion in 2017. It was the 40th anniversary of Elvis's passing, and obviously I'm English, and I didn't think I was going to stand a chance of winning because the best in the world are all competing for the world title, and you know, thousands of people are there, and they just built this brand new complex opposite Graceland, a big arena. And I thought, you know, it's a brand new place, and they've been running the Ultimate for like, you know, 13, 14 years. And I got there and I was like, okay, you know, this is a brand new building. This would be so cool to win in this first building ever been built for Elvis. It was Elvis week, and I went there and won the world title opposite Graceland, and it was a pretty incredible experience, you know. And it's something I'll never forget, you know. And when I opened the back doors to go out to the car, there was the mansion, and I thought, well, it can't get any closer than that. And that was on the 40th anniversary. So, yeah, you know, it's been a pretty roller coaster since then too. So pretty cool.
Do you find that is there this whole thing of with your fan base whereby they want you to be Elvis, whereas Do you believe that you're Elvis, or do you believe that you're acting as a tribute to Elvis, if that makes sense? Because there are some performers who kind of go, I am now Elvis, you know, that's it, you know, and I believe I'm Elvis. Whereas for yourself, I don't know. You'll give us the answer. Do you feel that, well, wait there, I'm doing my tribute, I'm putting a certain element of my spin on it?
Yeah, I think, you know, especially in the tribute world, you can get a bit lost in it. And I know guys who do, and it's very hard for them to get out of character, you know. I think that comes when you take it on later on in life, you know, where you've got to play that role, and it's such a strong role to have that they can't really shake it off. And that can be quite frightening too, right? So who are you? I don't know you, you know, that kind of thing. It's pretty crazy stuff. For me, it was like, it was a very natural thing to do. When I came off stage, I clicked and I was back to me again. I've always kept that separate from that kind of life. I mean, don't get me wrong, and I adore Elvis and his music and what he did for the music industry in the world. It was incredible. But, you know, it is an act, and that's what it is, and that's all it is, you know. And the love and the passion I've got for Elvis music will always be there, but you've also got to keep yourself too, you know, and that's really important, you know, especially when you're on these big arenas and you're doing big shows, you know. When I've performed in front of thousands of people, 10,000 people sometimes, and you've got to be Elvis on stage, but as soon as you walk off the stage, I'm back to me again, and that's really important for the mind also. But yeah, you know, a lot of people get carried away with it and all this, but for me, I've always kept it, you know, pretty real. It's a tribute I'm making. I'm not Elvis. Nobody's Elvis. Nobody's going to be Elvis. And you know, there's a fine line between a good act and, you know, pretty on the line of, oh, what's he doing? It's a bit of, you know, is this a joke or is this for real? You know, that kind of thing. And in the industry today, there's so many Elvis artists out there and tribute acts. And it's like battling, you know, against all these Elvises. I mean, you know, I think like somebody said, like within the next 10 years, 1 or 2 people are going to be an Elvis tribute act. That means my neighbour's going to be one or something. It's just incredible.
Well, what about if I told you that I've actually played the role of Elvis? That it's okay. I won't, and listen, I didn't sing. That's quite amazing. It was a theatre production with a company called Black Country Touring, and I was playing the role of Elvis, who performs as Elvis, but he's a bingo caller. So you would come into his bingo hall, and he'd be calling numbers, but there's a bit of a farce that goes on. So I'd call the numbers as Elvis, but there were other issues going on, and a wonderful piece of theatre itself. So what I was going to ask you was a few numbers that I used to call out and see whether you can relate to what you think those numbers relate to. So I'd say number 9. I'm not going to try and do my Elvis accent that I used to do, because it just wouldn't be fair, because it's about you. And number 9, what do you think number 9 related to?
Number 9?
Yeah.
No idea.
So I go, number 9, the colour of the size of his blue suede shoes.
Oh, that's terrible.
It is. And then, because
so you obviously didn't hang around for the job then?
No, I didn't. And there was 22. What was 22?
22. No idea.
The number of acres of his Graceland.
Oh, that's clever though.
Yeah, so there were elements of that, but it wasn't just a case of calling numbers. What you found was there was something else that was kind of going on.
Yeah, that's pretty clever though.
Yeah.
Like cool.
So you know, you go into the fact that people playing Elvis, and what I found though was quite interesting was we had people turn up, and they had Elvis tattoos on their arms, and I was kind of like, oh my gosh. They've come to see an Elvis tribute act. I'm not an Elvis tribute act. I'm playing the role of this Elvis bingo caller who invites people in to play bingo. But then suddenly there's an issue that's going on in terms of they are actually coming in to see a tribute act, but I'm not really the tribute act. There's somebody else who comes in, who comes to do a performance, but I've taken them on to be a helper. So there's all this confusion, and it's a farce, but it's fun. And everyone loved it. I think the Arts Council voted it. The Midlands Arts Council voted it as one of their favourite plays that they saw.
Oh, wow,
so, but it was this thing, and I think for me was when I saw fans with the Elvis tattoos on, kind of going, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? But after the show, you know, after it all finished, I went and chatted to them and they went, it was amazing. And I was just like, oh, wow, thank gosh for that. So I was wondering whether that kind of puts an added pressure to you as an artist, whereby they're so not caught up, they're so dedicated to Elvis that they almost kind of go, they want you to be Elvis.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and that's sometimes very difficult because you get fans who come along who are fans of ETAs. You know, I'm doing a biography at the moment about my life and my journey from Stoke to Memphis. You know, to win the world title, and it's a strange thing, fans especially, because you know, we have to remember that we're all fans of Elvis, and sometimes they get a bit wrapped up in like their ETA, so they can be vicious with you. You know, they can be like, "We hate you. You're not as good as him. We hate you," and that kind of thing goes on a lot in this business. And I found that pretty harsh. You know, and I thought, wow, you know, aren't we here to pay respect to the music and Elvis, the man himself? But then it got pretty lost me along the way, and I thought, okay. And it was a kind of learning experience. So the fans can be amazing, but they can also be, well, we hate you, you know, that kind of thing. Or you get fans of, you'll never be Elvis, you know. Well, we know that. We don't ever, it's like you reminded me, well, you're not Elvis, you know. And I found that really strange, you know, at the time going into it, because it's its own world, you know, the Elvis world. It really isn't. When you step into it, you're like, wow, you know, you have to take a step back and think, okay, so what's all this about? You know, it's pretty intense at some point, you know. So the fans can be great though, because they can be critical. And I love criticism. You know, when it comes down to my act, I've always taken that on board. You know, if somebody said to me, you didn't do that right, or you didn't sing this right, or you didn't do this right. And I've always learned from that. And that's the secret. You know, you learn from people like that. But you don't learn from people who go, just, we hate you. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Good, right?
Yeah, where somebody might say you didn't shake your hips enough, or...
That's right, yeah, you know. So, yeah, it's just stuff like that, really. But, you know, I mean, in general, the Elvis fans are the best, you know. I get a lot of love and respect from them. And, you know, I have great times, you know, singing Elvis, doing Elvis on stage in front of the fans. And I love looking out. And you know, they're not my fans, and I've never looked and thought they're my fans. You know, I've done big places, and I've turned out in theatres with 2,000, 3,000 people, and I don't look in the audience and go, they're all here for me. You know, they're here for Elvis. They want to hear and they want to see Elvis. It's very important.
But for you, in terms of your performance itself and your act itself, do you focus on a specific era for Elvis in terms of the songs that you sing? Because I actually Googled it. I didn't realise, is it 757 songs that he sang, or something like that? Wait there, if you're going to do that, you're going to be there day and night, aren't you?
Yeah, well, you know, that's proved to me on these lockdown sessions that I'm doing. You know, the amount of material is just incredible. I've been doing lockdown sessions now. Probably I've done about 10, 12 live feeds, you know, and I do 2 to 3 hours per live feed. I don't just go on for 20 minutes. Every other Saturday I come and perform. And the material, I'm still trying to get through the material. You know, there's that much stuff going on. But as far as the eras are concerned, in the show, I do a show called The Spirit of Elvis. It's like a gospel-based show where we'll come out and we do the Leather 68 first, and then we'll go into the gospel section, and then we'll do like a recreation, a total recreation of Aloha from Hawaii. It's one of my favorite concerts. I think it's incredible. And so we do the whole shebang. So yeah, I do different eras, different, you know, the early, the mid stuff, the later stuff of Elvis. And it's always fun to do, you know, because people want all the songs, and that's what's difficult. Like I say, on these live feeds, people are on the live feeds, they're coming up and they're asking for specific songs that they like. And what I've really, really found out is they don't really want to hear the hits, right? So they're asking for all the obscure songs. I do 2 to 3 hours of obscure material. I haven't sang Trilogy yet. I haven't sang Suspicious Minds. I haven't sang Hound
That's
Dog.
my favourite. Suspicious Minds. Suspicious Minds, my favourite.
Yeah. But, you know, a lot of the Elvis fans, they want to hear the obscure songs too. You know, they want to hear the album stuff. And that's great, you know, when they do that. Because it's great for me. It's refreshing. Yeah. It gives me something new to work on. And I like that a lot.
And I assume it's that thing, isn't it, as you said, where they're Elvis fans. Because you get people like me who, I'm a fan of Elvis, but I'm not listening to Elvis every day, if that makes sense. Or, you know, maybe once a month I might hear a track and go, oh yeah, 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 yeah. It's like the fact that I knew I was going to interview you and I went, oh yeah, he's done some great tracks, hasn't he? And you suddenly start reminiscing about certain things that you heard or the first Elvis song that you ever heard. So yeah,
Yeah,
and I assume with the fans, they go, we've heard all those top 10 and top 20 tracks. We want
that's
something
right.
a bit kind of different. So does that kind of, is that for you at the moment then? You're doing these lockdown singing sessions, are you then?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how can people come along and listen to those, or where's the connection? Is it on your website?
Yeah, it's on Gordon Hendricks on Facebook. On Gordon Hendricks is Elvis, it's called, and you just go on, like the page, and you get to see all the live shows. And it's pretty simple, just a button, you like it, and you're on. And what started off was I did a fundraiser for the National Health Service because everybody was doing these live feeds, and it's not. I thought it was not really for me. I didn't really want to do it. So I watched a couple of guys doing it. I thought, okay, I'll give it a bash. And I thought I'd just come up with a fundraiser one night. So I said, we're going to donate, all the money to the National Health Service. It's going to go direct to them. So we went on Facebook, set it all up, and the money went direct to National Health. I thought, we'll do it. And I think we raised something over like £13,000-14,000, wow. Which is pretty incredible. And I was like, well, okay, there's something in this. And then when I went on, it was like, there was over 1,000 people. I think we got to like 1.8K, 1,000 people. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? This is incredible. So I started doing it every 2 weeks because people were saying, you got to do it, you got to do it. And then people were sharing it all over the world. So now I've got fans in Brazil and Hong Kong, Japan, and they all come on the Saturday night. And it's pretty nerve-wracking too. I come in here, I perform in this room, and on a Saturday we go live at 8 o'clock, and I just see these numbers shoot through the roof, and I'm like, wow, it's incredible. And then I think over the 4 months we've had an extra 10,000 followers onto the website, which is just over these lockdown shows, which is great. It's great for me, and I like doing it. And the good thing about it is I don't dress up as Elvis doing this. I can come on as myself and sing the songs, and people are like, wow, you sound like Elvis. It's incredible, and they're appreciating the music and what I do instead of looking at dazzling costumes, which is great. And I enjoy that.
Do you think there's that element of whereby you're kind of changing the identity in the sense of you're kind of going, look, this is Gordon Hendricks, and what I do is I perform as Elvis, as opposed to going, this is Elvis, who's done by Gordon Hendricks. Is there that kind of change for yourself, do you think, or is that something you've been working on continually?
Yeah, I think what it is, when I was so obsessed with getting everything right, right up to the world title in Memphis, and the guys who have won the world title, were called the Ultimates, and there's only like 13 Ultimates in the whole world, and you can imagine how many Elvis tribute artists there is. So I won I was the 11th. I was the 11th Ultimate to win. And once you get that title, it stays with you forever. You're an ultimate. That's what they call you. So after that, I kind of came home and I thought, okay, now what do I do now? I've kind of worked all my life to get to that point, to win that, to be the best in the world, if you like. And then when you do that and you come home, you go, well, what do I do now? So where do I go? So I thought, okay, it's time for me to start being me now, and exploring what I can do. And that's what I started to do, and I get a lot of pleasure from that. So I came back and I did a show called Strip Back, and it was like Elvis material, all the hits and stuff, but rearranged and just done acoustically, a bit like Live Lounge. I had this vision that I wonder what it would be for Elvis to go to the Live Lounge, BBC Live Lounge, and do it. I thought it'd be a really cool thing to do. So I stripped it right back, and we did like a Live Lounge album of Elvis stuff, and it was great. So we did the first time we did a show as myself. I walked on stage. I was so nervous because I thought, well, that's it. You can hide behind all the regalia, but now it's about you. You're going to face people, and we sold out. And we did the show, and it was fabulous. And then we released the album. It did really well. And then so it's just like a little progression now, where I've started kind of doing things myself. So I've done to be really successful now. Because I think there's a lot of fans out there who don't like people dressing up like Elvis. I know that because I get told it, and they I want to hear him sing the Elvis songs, and I want to hear him well. Do you know what I mean? And that's what's starting to happen for me, and it's great. About the lockdown stuff I was doing, yeah. So I'm doing that every 2 weeks, and it's great. Really, like, people are really loving it. So you can catch me on that. If you want to come and see it for free, you just click on to the link, and then every other Saturday, if you can listen to some great Elvis songs on the Facebook page. If you want to check me out, GordonHendricks.com. Just go out and see the website there, and you'll see all the tour dates have all been cancelled, obviously, this year. But next year, hopefully, we can get back to some kind of normality, because I think the theatre business is probably going to be the last one to go, on what's happening. So it's very difficult for all entertainers. So we've got to think about things and entertain people, and it's pretty difficult to do. But yeah, I mean, everybody's welcome to come along and watch and stuff. And I only like nice people, though, who come on. You get a lot of these guys, with the internet world that we live in now. Somebody said to me, "There's a lot of like keyboard warriors out there," and I didn't know what it meant. And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "There's loads of them out there." And I was like, "Okay." And I've had a couple myself, right? And I thought, "Oh my God, what's happening?" So I had to remind people. I had one guy last week who came on, and he was just got like loads of angry faces and stuff, and was like, "Oh, I hate you," and all that. I thought, "Oh my God." So I stopped the show and I just explained this. I said, "Lou, I'm doing this for free for you. Don't come on here and start being horrible. I'm doing this for nothing. If you don't like it, just move on, go somewhere else." And then, unfortunately, because I said it, right, like 1,000 people were like going to try and attack him, going, and it all went off. So I've learned from that not to do that. Just ignore it, right?
On the other side of it, do you have a lot of the adoration? I don't know. Do you have interesting things thrown at you?
Yes. Yeah, a few things. I've had a few things thrown at me on stage. Some crazy stuff's happened on stage where, people have followed me home once from a show. My gosh. And I was like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" And we had to tell her to go home. And she goes, "Well, I used to live in this house years ago, and it used to have a red door." And then she goes, "I know you live in that house with the red door." And I was like, "Oh my God." It was like crazy stuff, because they get obsessed, right? They just get obsessed with, Elvis and music. And some guys get really to the point where they go, "We think you're Elvis, you embodied Elvis, that kind of thing." "No, I'm not. No, I'm not, thanks." It's like that, So people can get pretty crazy. It's a crazy world we live in.
Yeah. Where they start asking you, "How did you really die?" Look, Gordon, it's been lovely chatting to you. What I haven't asked you, what's your favourite Elvis song?
I have so many different favourite Elvis songs. I think anybody who does what I do, they have a favourite one. It all depends which one it is at the time, what makes you tick. I think there's an Elvis song for every single mood. There really is. If you go through a divorce, you split up or whatever, there's a song for that. If you're feeling down, there's a song. If you feel happy, there's a song for that. So I think at the moment, I'm really delving into the gospel stuff. A lot of people are feeling emotional, from what's happening. These times we're living in now is just crazy, crazy times. And, I lost a good friend of mine, my best friend, in fact, through this COVID-19. And he was only like 54 years old. And he just passed away, and it makes you realise, like the stuff that people are going through is pretty tough times. And for entertainers, I feel like it's our job to cheer people up. A lot of guys, I feel, are sitting at home, they can't go out, especially the older generation, where they're kind of locked in their houses. And if I can, bring a little bit of light to their life by mentioning their name, on my live feed or whatever, it really lifts their spirits. And I find that is like priceless, and the amount of emails and cards and presents that have been sent to me over that has been incredible, and I love doing that. That's what I'm here to do, is entertain people, cheer them up, make them feel happy. That's what my job is. And if I can do that, just for that second, then I've done my job, you know, and I'm very, very proud of that, you know, that I do that, because there's a lot of guys out there who are getting down in the dumps, and like a lot of mental health issues for men, you know, you probably see it all over the internet, and a lot of guys, they go through this tough time and they don't speak to anybody, and, you know, if they can click on and hear some good music and have some fun, because it's not just about the music. I try to entertain people. I have some fun with people.
So Gordon, listen, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. We've got all your website details and everything. For some reason, I keep thinking that your audience is also getting older. Who come along, that your audience who come and see you are getting older. So I've got visions of some auntie throwing dentures at you or something while you're singing.
Actually, there is a lot of older generation in the audiences, but you do find now there's a lot of younger guys coming up too. You know, a lot of kids. I mean, I've got a lot of kids who are fans of mine, you know, and they're dancing around their living rooms and doing Elvis and stuff. And I just think it's fascinating, you know, that, you know, in the Elvis world, you know, there's a joke side of it, you know, where people have kind of made Elvis into a character, you know, and you know that's Elvis with a big quiff and all this and eating burgers. But there's another side of it too, where it's pretty serious. And if you've never been to Graceland, I don't know if you have, but as soon as you go there, you kind of understand it a little bit better. You know, where you look at that and you go, no, it's not about that actually. It's about this. You know, he was a very spiritual person. I mean, he was the best entertainer who's ever walked the planet. You know, I think people forget that. You know, they just look at, you know, the big quiff and the eating burgers stuff. And I mean, the guy was a genius, a musical genius, you know, and I think for rock and roll music, it changed the whole world. So, you know, that's the part I like to pay tribute to. And a lot of Elvis fans do too, you know. So the generations we're getting coming up now are people who are getting interested in Elvis again, you know, the younger guys. And that's what it's about, you know, it's just carrying on that legacy for how long we can do it.
Definitely. We all love his music. I mean, even to this day. And thank you so much for sharing with us what you do. And I'll come and listen to you, definitely. So, there's at least you've got one extra person coming to see you. So I'm going to finish the interview and I'm going to just say thank you again. Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you so much.
Anytime.